Greetings and welcome to the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight I'm joined by our usual cast, Jen and Chris and Ray. How are y'all doing?
Hey.
Spectacular.
Good.
Excellent.
What you got something going on in the drink there with the spectacular there, Chris? Or
No, it's tea with oat milk creamer. So
gotcha.
Special.
Cool. Well, tonight we're doing a book that actually just came out a month or so ago. Like it's a really new book. So we wanted to again jump on it and read it. And when I proposed it, I was like, well, we'd read it for March, but the show would come out in April. And Jen was like, perfect. That's like, Earth Month or whatever. So, so
every month is Earth Month.
That's very true. Every month is Earth Month. So I was gonna make a joke and it was stupid. Anyway, hashtag that joke. Anyway, so tonight we have read How to Avoid a Climate Disaster by Bill Gates. As usual, let's start off with just kind of a quick, what was your initial thoughts? Since the topic is about climate, Jen, what were your initial thoughts?
I liked it. It wasn't too dark, like a lot of climate change books I feel like can get really depressing. He was truthful, which is what we need, so he didn't like sugarcoat things, but it also wasn't all doom and gloom. And I liked that Will Wheaton narrated it. That was pretty cool. I think he did a good job of just giving a basic overview of all the issues. It was a lot of information, but he explained it in ways that people can understand and I think apply, So.
Chris, what about you?
Much like Jen, I liked it too. I haven't read a lot of climate change books because a lot of them are, in my opinion, doom and gloom. They are a lot of, we've fucked this earth so hard that we can't come back from it. We're all just toast. So I can't read stuff like that. It makes me sad. And then I freeze and do nothing. This one I really, really like because it offered solutions. It offered, and he was truthful and he was honest, and it made me understand why change takes so long, because we have all these, we know what we have to do by this day, or by this year. So why is it taking us so long to get there when we already know? So that was always my frustration, and him explaining it that way, it was like, oh yeah, okay, well, that makes sense. And I wound up feeling very motivated and hopeful, which is a first after reading a climate change book, because he offered a lot of solutions if we want it. And it is like, but we have to do the right ones too, right? So I just thought it was really awesome. And I loved that it was narrated by Will Wheaton. It was really cute.
Ray, what about you?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting Will Wheaton, so because it started off with Bill actually doing his own thing, and I'm like, I'm kind of, no offense, Bill, I'm kind of glad they went with Will Wheaton. It's like, yeah, okay. I'm gonna, so I don't do a lot of reading on this topic, more because a lot of books they don't touch on realistic ideas on how to move forward and how to get a general population to move forward. So what I liked about this book was this touches on everybody. This touches on what pretty much all the different levels of government and all the different levels of people, whether we're from a rich country or a poor country, doesn't really matter. He touches on what everybody's needs to do to kind of chip in, because this is a world problem, and we all need to kind of help out with it. So I liked that. It wasn't it was information that was to get your attention, and then facts to kind of like, here, this is what we can do to kind of help out. So I like that. It was good that way.
I'm gonna chime in and say pretty much the same thing. I was not sure whether or not I was going to enjoy the book. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, and for the reasons that y'all have pretty much outlined. He's one of those guys that he's probably 95% of the time always the smartest guy in the room. Maybe not about specific topics, but the fact that he's just like, okay, well, here's what we need to get to, and here are the facts. And it's not sexy. It is not a sexy book by any means, which I loved, because it's like, okay, here's why we need to do that. And here's 5 hard, examples of data that shows why this is the
Here's
case.
a spreadsheet.
Exactly. And the whole time I kept thinking in the back of my head, listening to some of the political podcasts I listened to talking about why Ross Perot did so poorly is because numbers and charts aren't sexy, but he got the information across. So everyone looks back and they're like, he was running circles around everyone else, but because it was like, well, let's look at this chart, everyone just like, just zoomed out. So I could see how some people might do that with this book, but like, I felt like it was written for me, because not only was it had, hard information. It wasn't just, I think this needs to happen. It's like, no, we've got scientific proof, and here it is, and let me point it to you. But it also came at it as, it wasn't doom and gloom, but it also came at it, like you said, Ray, in that it was practical. I haven't read a lot of books about climate change, but I did read one, and it was just like, we have to just right now just turn off all the coal factories. And it's like,
yeah.
Well, kind of need power.
Yeah.
So can't really do that, but yes, we need to get to that point, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
And one of the other things is one of the books that I read, I want to say it was The Rational Optimist. And he touches on this thing of, and it was the first time I'd ever heard about it. It was, yes, we need to do a lot of stuff to improve the planet, but we also can't just say, oh, well, we're the richest country, or one of the richest countries, so we're going to do it, and we expect you to do it as well. So, sorry, you have to keep burning wood in your hut to have light. And it's like, that's not fair. We can't do that to the rest of humanity. And I'm so glad. Now, granted, he's become a huge humanitarian, in his later years. So I'm glad he came at it from that aspect. So as we've already kind of hit on, the focus of the book is, he does go over and talk about, it's well known, climate change is real, can't BS it and say it's not, or that, this, that, or the other. And we do need to do
Republican. Certain ones. No offense. Anybody.
On the upload. Yeah.
But yeah, we have to do something to help this planet. We've got to start hitting these benchmarks. And he comes at it very, very rationally. It's like, okay, well, first off, I'm glad you're recycling. I'm glad you're doing your part, but in the long run, it doesn't really mean shit. Like, we have to go after these companies / countries, and we've got to start making these massive movements. But it's a problem, because in order to do that, we have to figure out better ways to do things. And like, he lists things like concrete is apparently a huge problem. I mean, it's fantastic for building and having a civilization and everything else, but it's a hard process to get around, because the way we scientifically make concrete causes a bunch of CO2. Yeah. So he comes at it like that. He comes after the power issue, how we are creating power. And I'm so glad that he's not one of those people who's adverse to, hey, why don't we build like 17 nuclear plants and just like shut off all the coal plants? So, but yeah.
That's what I liked, is because I went to an environmental natural resource school for college for 3 years, and my professors raged, ranted, pointed a lot of fingers at the nuclear power industry because they were hippies, and that was the big thing, was nuclear power was going to destroy the planet because the waste is pretty terrible. But what the problem is that there's no bridge from fossil fuels to renewables. There's nothing, you can't go from one to the other and expect it to work the same. We just do not have the technology, the innovation yet, but nuclear power can get us there, which was why I told Ray that he would probably like this book, because he's pro-nuclear in that he acknowledges that it's a necessary stepping stone, and that the technologies for it are.
Listen, there are some amazing things that happen with nuclear power. and it is such a regulated industry that I think that's what a lot of people forget, is that it is regulated to the point of we actually have to throw out smoke detectors in a separate waste facility because it has radionuclides in it. All smoke detectors have radionuclides in it, and the nuclear industries have to throw them out in a separate way because they're radioactive. But if you were to take a building that you just knocked down that had never been any part of that industry, they can just toss them out and not even think about it.
Yeah.
So it's like the regulation, which is a great thing. It's good that it's being regulated. There's a lot of stigma to it because of what can go wrong. So
I think he gave a good look at the pros and cons of every type of energy, though.
Yes.
Like, he acknowledged that nuclear has these benefits, but they also have these drawbacks. He tells the difference between fusion and fission, which is kind of cool, because if we can unlock, is it fission that we're doing or not doing?
Fusion is so I'm really excited by fusion. There's some amazing work going on. I was really hoping that Canada would get into it, because one of the fuels that they use is called tritium, and it's a radioactive isotope of hydrogen. I'm really excited by that because they fuse hydrogen essentially together and they make helium. So your byproduct is helium. Now, the core of the fusion reactor would be radioactive for a while, just because of free neutrons that would be floating around. But the stuff that's going on with that is really exciting. So there's an ITER reactor being built in France right now, and if you there's some pictures of it. There's I think it's called Tokuhama reactor. You can actually see photos of the inside of the plasma while it's running. It's amazing. It's really cool. So
the source material is easier to come by, and the process, or the what's left over, isn't radioactive for very long. So like, it's kind of the perfect,
Yes, that's what a lot of people
energy.
don't realize, is that tritium, which is again radioactive isotope of hydrogen, is actually naturally occurring. We actually have it in our oceans, and so you can extract it. There are ways to do that. Canada was actually one of the a big producer of tritium for a while, because we would actually create deuterium, which is what we use for our reactors. It's called heavy water. And there's some fun stuff with that.
You can talk for a long time about
I can keep going on that one, but
no, you were just throwing out some terms, and I was like, you're getting awful marvelly here, like.
And then he got dunked in a tank of it, and
then we add the unobtainium and
vibranium.
So if you want to so there's hydrogen, then there's deuterium, which is hydrogen is just a proton with an electron on it. Deuterium is your proton, your neutron, and electron, and then your tritium is your proton and two neutrons, and that's when it's radioactive. So
you're pretty.
You're pretty.
Anyway, so yes, Canada used deuterium to regulate the neutrons in their reactors, which is called CANDU reactors. So, but that's for a fission process. So what fusion does is it uses that as instead of as a moderator, they use it as a fuel, which is pretty cool.
All I kept thinking the whole time during that section was, if we can get this, then we can get like long range space travel, right? That would be like no more fossil fuels. That's most of the weight. And you just.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. And I'm glad he said, I agree with him in that, unfortunately, we need regulations to get people to move over to stuff, but we need to be pouring a bunch of money into, hey, guess what? First one to get to this gets $1 billion, whatever. Because and it's one of those things that, yeah, I'm sure there are people working on this left, right, and center, because it's one of those things that if whoever unlocks this, like, they're gonna be in real trouble. Like, there's gonna be countries that are just going to just flip out. Like, they talked about it in the bottom. We talked about it in the Babaverse books. The idea of cheap energy basically caused the Middle East to just go nuclear, literally, and unfortunately, that would be something that happened if it came really quickly. I mean, granted, surely it would be over amount of time, but it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, why would you not be working on this? Why would you not be trying to be the first person to crack this nut? Yeah, there's a lot of money right now, but how about all of the money later on? So,
I really liked that he throughout the book focused on innovation, though.
Yes.
You know, everything was about, we can do this, we're smart enough, and that's a theme I see a lot in other books and other people. Like, we can fix this. We've just got to, like, put our mind and our money to it. Like,
Can I also say he's the first one that I really remember talking about? These are good problems that we have. This is a good thing that we have people coming out of poverty. This is a good thing that we have people that are living longer. Like, he touched on the point of it, that these are good things. We just have to do it differently so that we don't screw
Destroy the
ourselves.
planet, yeah.
Because so I like the idea of, like, no. It's good that China has done a bunch of work to try and get a lot of people out of poverty. We need to India as well. Certain parts of Africa are working towards that as well. So it's important, but it's also, these are good things that are happening in the world. We just have to do better.
Yeah,
we can't expect. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I was just gonna say, I like that he said, he wasn't talking about how. See, I think the big problem when you read, when you hear about climate change is all what holds people up is all the sacrifices it sounds like they're going to have to make. People, especially in the Western world, really like, I mean, our lives are pretty cushy. We don't have to worry about a whole lot, right? And we like our stuff. And so that's always the hard thing, especially like this pandemic has just pulled it right out to the front for it, the individualism of people, right? Like, you can't tell me what to do with myself, right? So he's saying we just need, like, we're not asking you to give up your way of life. We just have to do it in a way and have energy and electricity. I think electricity was the biggest one, to keep our lifestyles going. We just have to do it in a way that doesn't, ravage the earth. And that's the first time I've heard of somebody writing something like that and saying, no, I'm not asking you to sacrifice anything. We just got to change stuff. Yeah. That's all.
While also mentioning the economic disaster.
Yes.
Right. Like our economy would be absolutely shit if we did the fast changes. So it's doing it in a way that we can figure it all out as one. So
yeah. I don't know how much of his biography y'all know. Like, but he's definitely always been that guy of, all right, well, let's figure it out. Like, when they were originally coming up with, like, they had to come up with an operating system to sell with these computers. They were like, we can do that, and literally they had nothing, so they went out and bought DOS. So and then modified it to what they needed to do. But it was like, yeah, we can do this. Now let's just figure out how to do it. And it's always a problem. It's one of his first girlfriends was talking about how everything in the Gates house was a competition. Everything was a competition. Who can swim out to the dock and back first? Who can do this first? It was very much push yourself, do more, be more, create more. So his mentality of that I really liked, because like you said, it's very uplifting to think, like you said, there are books out there that are like, no, we're screwed, tough. You're just reading this to, we're buying time until we're gone. And he's like, no, we've got time. We can do this. Like,
But sorry, I was gonna say, I also like though that he said we can't make decisions based on the 2030 goals. some of those decisions that we make for that won't help us get to the goals of 2050. So that 2030, we may have, that's more of a guideline, but our final decisions have to be that further ahead and further down the road of 2050. So I thought that was important too.
Yeah. It's crazy because like I say growing up, when I was in my, late teens, early 20s or whatever, Bill Gates was the devil. Like, he owned Microsoft, and Microsoft is horrible. And all they want to do is make money and this, that, he was considered a bad guy. And then, he steps away and his wife's like, hey, let's look into help save the world. And now that's his jam. Mm-hmm. is helping with stuff, and the fact that he even mentions, he's like, yeah, we've done a lot of stuff to help a lot of people with malaria and disease and everything, and climate change could totally wreck all the work we've done. Yeah. So he's like, it was a natural thing for me to start looking into it. So, yeah. And it's obvious that he knows how to explain it. I didn't realize that he was as good at describing and explaining stuff as he is. I thought it was funny when he was talking about the one point with Warren Buffett, and he's like, yeah, my buddy Warren was asking about why this, so I explained it, and he goes, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
We're all in the same crowd. That makes a bunch of good.
Yeah.
Hey, Warren, what do you think?
Name drop, casual.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, it and like I said, I found the book uplifting. I found it really interesting. I love the fact that there's so much information in it, and he does cover a lot of stuff, and he does even specifically say, he's like, there's like 12 things that we've got to work on, but let me just talk about maybe the top 3. Like, he understands. I can't go on and on and on. I mean, yeah, he technically could, but then no one would read the book. Yeah. So, as for the reading itself, I think he would have done an okay job reading it.
Yeah.
We'll see, but no. I think Will Wheaton was a good choice.
His time is worth more than reading that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
So you've mentioned the book a couple of times, and I did get a little bit of a feel. Was it who read the Bobiverse? Was it
Ray Porter?
Was it Ray Porter?
Yeah, it was Ray Porter.
Ray Porter.
If he had read this, I would have been like, this is the Bobiverse. Like, because it felt like that, where it's like, okay, here's my list of things to do.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And here's the to-do list. So, all right, what's the next thing we got to knock off? And so, if Ray Porter had read this, I would be like, this is just another Bob.
Another Bob, yeah. Well, like I was saying, and you all brought it up as well. I also love the fact that it's the humanitarian aspect of it as well. It's not just, okay, well, here's the clear cut path we have to get there. Mm-hmm. Let's just do it. It makes sense. We're going to do it, and not taking into account the fact that while we do this, we're going to destroy the world economy, and throw a bunch of people back into severe poverty, and it's not doable. We've got to. We're humans. We have to go about it the human way.
Yeah.
So there's like a philosophy, I guess, in sustainable development: people, profit, planet. You can't just focus on the planet. You can't just focus on the economy or profit. Like, you need to take all 3 into consideration and take the cost of the planet into consideration. Like he says a few times when you're pricing things, like, well, yeah, it's only gonna, fossil fuels only cost $2 or $3 a gallon, but it's not factoring in the harm it's doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're not paying the true price for it. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's there once again, going back to the other book I was talking about, The Rational Optimist. He even talks, and in that book he talks about how in the I think it was the 70s, it was like, we're going to hit peak oil, and we're going to be, and that's it. That's going to be all the oil. And
Mm-hmm.
the 80s came, and then the 90s, and then the 2000s. And it's like, yeah, if you look at what we're doing right now with no deviation, we're not going to increase or better the way that we, deal with this stuff. We're not going to have any innovation in how we create stuff, manufacture stuff, anything like that. If there's no deviation, yes, your information is correct. We're going to run into a problem, whatever. And he's just like, don't bet against humanity, because there's lots of things that probably should have wiped us out, but someone figured out something against all odds. Yeah. And I've always liked that theory because I'm just like, yeah, things are looking bad, but who knows? All of a sudden you may be like, yeah, so we cracked nuclear fission, so fusion, so
no. Yeah. We're gonna have a fusion reactor underneath the ground in every different area here. We'll make sure we cover the locations, but we're set.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go live on the moon.
Fusion reactor in every home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't need it.
No.
It's the amount of power that they can create. I'm really excited to see. Seriously, like it's.
Are you nerding out, hun?
A little bit.
Get on it, Ray. Make it happen.
I can't. I'm not that smart.
We need to go get him to do it.
Yeah, counseling this big. So, but no, like I said, overall, I really enjoyed it. I loved all the different things he talked about, and he does talk about the fact that there are certain things that we're working towards that do help, but in the end. I almost sent it to y'all. John Oliver did a video, I think it was last week before, talking about plastics. Yeah, and he specifically mentions the fact he's like, all these ad campaigns were like, what are you going to do with the plastic bottle? And the question should be like, no, what are you doing with the plastic bottle, manufacturers? Like, this should be on you. Like, I recycled 5 bottles while you produced 5,000 in that same amount of time.
But I did like the fact that he brought up plastics as a potential way to reduce our carbon as well, in the way of that it would be a container for it, right? Like you'd actually be able to use the plastics to house the carbon, and then that so if you had it would be a net negative to carbon if we used it that way.
Oh yes, I liked the green. Was it the green price or the green percentage? What was it called? The green premium.
The green premium. That's right. Yeah.
That certain technologies, innovations, and things that we use now have on it, and why it's not implemented yet is because the green premium of it is far too high. It doesn't make economical sense to put it in place because it would just wind up fucking everything up. So I really like that, and him explaining, because again, I didn't. In school, we were never told why the world is the way it is and how steps we can change it. It was always just like, don't do this, don't do that, just use this. Everybody needs a green roof. Dishwashers are evil and everybody should stop cutting their lawn. So I did learn other things, but some of the professors were very much anti-corporate, anti-capitalist, and it was anti-establishment too. And so not knowing why these things aren't taking place right now, knowing that we have to do them, and him explaining it well, it's a lovely idea. However, A, B, C, D, and E need to come into place first before it gets put into the mainstream. And it made me feel a lot better. Like, okay, people are taking this seriously. This isn't just being ignored. It's just there's a lot of hurdles, a lot of red tape to get through to get to it. But it's out there and it does exist. It's got to, make its way to the mainstream. So that I was excited and encouraged about that these innovations are there, that people are serious about climate change. There's a lot of research and development being done. More money needs to be put in R&D. I think he mentioned that if you do want to donate, if we do stand a chance on anything, money has to be funneled into research and development for these scientific innovations. If anything is, if that's your takeaway, money into R&D. So yeah, I got excited. It was like, this is what I should have learned in school back in 2000 to 2003. That's what I would have liked to have learned, is how can I do this instead of what's wrong and just what to avoid and not do.
You know what? That's another big thing I really liked, is that he comes in at the book, and I hate this for any book, any conversation, anything where people are just like, well, this is what's wrong. And my first question always wants to be, then what can we do to fix it? And he's like, okay, here's what to do to fix it, and just starts listing it. And you have to respect someone who's done the research to do that type of thing. And one of the other technologies that he mentioned that it's like, it's super expensive, we can't really do it right now, is the carbon capturing. And I'm just like, man, that man, can you imagine like if you could figure out a way to make that economical? Because especially if you're capturing carbon, it's like, okay, well, what do we put carbon into? I don't know, fucking make diamonds out of it. Like just literally just be like, here's diamonds made out of, carbon that was in the, which by the way, I did read a couple months ago, there is a process. Someone is doing that. It's
There's
extremely
companies
costly.
that sell.
But yeah,
that will-
they're harvesting the carbon out of the air and turning them into diamonds. And I'm just like, perfect, because we know that shit ain't going to break and release the carbon anytime soon. So.
The other thing that I thought it was really interesting too was he brought up the whole emergency break glass only if it's dire, which is the geo engineering, and I'm glad he brought that up because it's like, yeah, these are things we can look into and we probably should look into for a just in case, but it's not something to rely on, right? So
Here's the thing: we have a perfectly livable planet. We need to fix that one before we try to create a new one or look for another planet to live on. Like it's cheaper to preserve what you have than to geoengineer it into something because you fucked it up.
Yeah,
but Ray was talking about
making the
causing the
brighter and
the reflectivity.
That's what I
of
mean.
The clouds.
Yeah, like trying to do all that shit. It's just like, how about we just?
Yeah, because I'm sure that won't cost a damn arm and a leg.
Yeah.
Well,
so.
I think he actually gave a price for it, and he said it is a much more reasonable price to try and get those things to work.
Mm-hmm.
But he said it's not a long-term fix. That's just that just extends the window that we have to fix what we can. So let's focus on the things we can fix. And then if we need a little bit more time where we're getting closer, then we smash that glass and, make our clouds 10% brighter and away we go.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time he was talking about that, the only thing I could think of is like, well, that's what's going to come to is we're going to have to hit a hit point, or that's going to have to happen. And that will be the wake up point for a lot of people. They're going to be like, oh shit, like y'all weren't kidding, were you? No, fuckers, we weren't. So,
yeah, and what you were saying, Eugene, about CCS or carbon capture is we have natural carbon sinks in the world. The ocean is one of the biggest ones. Trees, which I think he mentions actually aren't the best way to capture carbon. Soil, I mean, the ice that is melting, in the permafrost holds carbon. The bottom of the ocean bed holds carbon and methane. So it's like, how about we just not ruin those?
Yeah.
We wouldn't need to invent things to suck the methane out of, whatever we're emitting it from.
Mm-hmm.
Can
I also mention that the whole
Sorry, you had hair. That was driving me nuts. Sorry. I couldn't stare at it any longer.
For everybody that's terrified of eating the cell-based meats, it's still meat. It's not. It's just. And you know what?
Bring it on. I'm ready.
Something didn't have to die in order for you to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm all about the lab-grown meat. Because then I don't have to think I killed an animal to eat this, but I still get to enjoy it.
Right?
Every time I think about or I hear about like new innovations in food and they're like basically like growing it in a lab, I think of that scene in Demolition Man where it's that they're underground and it's that little robot and he talks about recycled food, how it's good for the environment, okay for you. That's all I keep thinking about.
I forgot about that.
It's just this little part running around. Because vegan food, like some of the vegan food, is not good for you because it is so processed with an inch of a life. But when you talk about its environmental impact, it's better for the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, lab-grown meat is actually on my list of topics for Sustainably Geeky someday if I can ever find someone to talk about it. So if you're listening.
Oh, that will be interesting.
That would be interesting for sure.
Listen, if you smoke it right, it'll still taste good.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Just throw a lot of barbecue sauce.
Sure.
Tastes any different.
Well, is there anything else that he had in the book that you specifically want to bring up? We've hit all the major points. Like I said, I told the group before the show I didn't actually take any notes on this book just because it's a lot of information and it's all very positive. It's all very, it's bad, but we can fix it. And here's how we can at least go at it. And I did think, once again, going back to the Bobbiverse books, it was like, some of it sounds a little hand wavy, but he even acknowledges it. He's like, yes, we need something that will do this. I don't know how to do that. But maybe someone will. So, stay positive and let's work towards that. So,
yeah, one of the things that I found most interesting was when he talks about energy production and storage. Like, I knew that there were issues with batteries developing, but I didn't realize why, like Chris said, what the why was and how difficult it is to produce these batteries and why we're probably not going to get any better capacity or lower weight and size out of them. So that was kind of eye-opening for me. Like, my thought is if you put in solar, put in a battery pack, and you'll be fine. But apparently, it's not that simple. So.
Well, I mean, there's a reason why Tesla is the only one right now that's offering house-sized batteries or whatever.
Yeah, the Powerwall or whatever.
Which, by the way, my partner at work is still checking into that. And once he kind of gets some prices and stuff, it may be something that I don't know about this house, but I would definitely look at doing because yes, having solar panels and feeding stuff back to the grid is a great idea. Having all of the electrical system knocked out and literally having power cells sitting on my roof that I can't use pisses me off. I'm sorry, it does. Like granted, my mom never lost power, but I have friends that had solar cells installed on their houses and lost power for several days. Because you can't just shift it. You can't just go out there and throw a switch and say, "Oh no, don't be on the grid anymore. Use the power that's generating."
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
They're still tied into the grid though. And
okay. You can set up the systems here where it would automatically flip. But anyway, that's a whole other topic.
And then you also have to be able to store it for nighttime.
Yes.
That's where that big battery comes in. But yeah, the whole and I think he even mentions, he's like, yes, we're not going to get to that. We're not going to be running cruise ships and 18-wheelers and stuff on batteries. That's fine on our current technology. Now, if someone figures out, oh hey, here's the missing thing. We should have been using this metal instead of this one, and all of a sudden things get stupid light. Then who knows? But
and he points out, like, I think he talks about this, right? Like the lack of innovation in automotives over the past 150 years is 3% or something ridiculous compared to, I think he used the example of a processor or something doubles in capacity every few months or years. And
we've done pretty much everything we can with a gas engine.
Like
not much more we can do with it.
Internal combustion engines have operated the same since they were invented in the 1880s or 90s. We still do everything, every bit of maintenance, and powering it may be a little different. We don't use coal anymore, but it's like, come on, let's move on from this. This is dirty. It's a lot of work. It breaks down easily. It's emitting fossil fuels. Figure out a better way. Invest in electric vehicle infrastructure so people can buy them.
Like us.
You guys got one.
They're getting there, and I sent that picture of that confirmed new Volkswagen minibus. And I even sent it to Christy, and she goes, "It's kind of cute." I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of awesome." I still think if someone doesn't turn one into the mystery machine, everyone's just dumb. But and maybe it's just because of the paint scheme, but whatever. But yeah, it's like
on my list, man. That's
a pretty pimp looking vehicle, to be honest with you. That's very futuristic.
Just over 300 horse. It's.
What I liked about what Bill had said in his book about electric cars is that if you live in a country where fuel is cheap, like America, the price of an electric car doesn't make sense because fuel is so cheap. In a country like Canada, where we have the equivalent to about $5 a gallon.
Well, for our premium gas, it's just over $5 a gallon.
It makes sense to go electric because it's cheaper.
Because we got them subsidies.
It makes sense during the fall and the winter. Everyone is already losing their shit down here because gas is getting up around $3, and I'm just like, yeah, everyone's about to start driving again, and they lost a crap ton of money last year because of COVID. Yes, they're going to be jacking up the prices.
Yeah.
So
we're seeing it around here.
Which is another reason we got the electric car.
It's
your commute.
My commute is longer now, which is fine. I signed up for that. I enjoy the commute, but then I started doing some math and I was like, you know what? it's time for us to seriously consider. And so yeah, we pulled the trigger on it. And
I think
Your home powered by nuclear?
so 30% of Ontario's power is supplied by a local nuclear company. Then there's another nuclear plant down in the Pickering, Toronto area. They supply another, I want to say 15%. I think overall you're about 45% nuclear. The majority of the rest, or the majority of the grid in Ontario, is then powered by hydro. So
your car is like
pretty green.
No emissions at all, because you're not powering it by fossil fuels either way.
No. So yeah, the majority of our grid is that.
Which is why we call it hydro. I never really put that together.
And then we do have wind farms as well in certain areas. So
they're pretty sparse though.
They're sparse,
but they're not reliable at all. Sometimes you have to shut them down. And
they are there though.
They're there. Yeah.
Well, see, except for the extreme cold that we had, the ones in West Texas just go constantly. Like the last time I drove out to El Paso, I was just like, my God, these are everywhere.
Yeah.
So, which, right, fine by me pulling that power. So.
Yep.
But no, yeah, it's like even I love my Flex that I have. I don't plan on getting rid of it anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, yeah, I'm sure this will be the last gas vehicle I buy. Like I cannot see me not going to an electric next time because of, like you said, the commute. I literally could drive. I drive to work and back. And that's about it. Like I could probably plug it in for an hour and get all the juice that I needed because it's not that far a commute. So.
Yeah. So I drive 150 kilometers a day, which is almost 100 miles a day.
Whew.
And so, yeah, that's so I was using a lot of gas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is everybody that I take for a drive in that car,
mm-hmm.
they have a smile on their face, which is what driving is all about anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So.
I like driving it. It's fun. And the braking, it's a little weird to get used to, but I like it.
Yeah.
You can charge it at work, right?
Yes.
Yes, we have chargers at work.
So. Yeah, and we got a charging station
Free charge?
here at home.
Yeah, but we also have a charger. Yeah, we
have a charger.
We installed a charger at home, and then there's a couple around town as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If the government, this is where government plays a role in this. If they would incentivize or subsidize somehow, or just start paying for some of the charging stations, so that making trips is practical.
So
there wouldn't be much range anxiety.
I have been listening to a couple. I'll find the YouTube channel. I'll find it and send it to you guys. He has done a bunch of cross-country trips in different electric vehicles. And over the last year, Electrify America has really improved to the point of we technically could drive down to Florida or to Texas. Now it would take us longer because our car doesn't charge very quickly. Even on a fast charger, it would be about 50 minutes from zero to full. But it's getting better. There are some that can do it in about a half an hour or so, and that's unbelievable, right? Like that's awesome. So
see, there was some technology that came out several years ago that were super capacitors. And they were looking at trying to use them for drills and stuff. And it's like, oh, your drill died. Done. Like 5 seconds completely charging. And I'm just like, man, that's
why can't we just get batteries and switch them out? Put a deposit down, switch out your battery, make it easy.
So there's a couple of vehicles that they're looking at that where they have a process. It would change the battery in about 10 minutes, which is great. There's another one that would change the fluid in your battery, very similar, where you would dump out the old fluid and put the new fluid in, and that would charge your battery to give you your full charge that way. And then there's another technology that I've been listening to as well. I'm trying to remember the basics. Oh, it was a motorcycle, and the motorcycle just ran off of a capacitor. So what you did was you made sure it was like you'd plug it in and the capacitor would be full, and then you'd have 100 miles of range on the capacitor. So it would discharge as you would go,
Yeah.
but then it would regenerate as well as you brake. So you'd still regenerate, but it was all on a capacitor, which was pretty cool that they did that.
Yeah.
There's different things. Again, innovation's there. We just got to get it.
Mhm.
Got to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Got to make it worth it
Yes.
and get behind it.
Get
Yep.
that green premium down to 0.
Of course, it may be the capacitor thing may just be the whole thing that, batteries, when you short a battery, yes, it releases a lot of power really quickly. When you short a capacitor, it releases everything all at once, which is why, kids, you don't open old televisions.
How do you know this, Eugene?
Because I had a course in computer maintenance, and they talked about why you do not repair computer monitors, or if you do, there are certain things that you have to take into account, because even if it's been unplugged for a while, if you touch the wrong two things, like your heart will stop.
Oh dear.
So,
oh my God.
Yeah. Newer
I was just thinking
televisions-
you meant from like personal experience.
No. Like I took apart a monitor one time to paint it, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to paint this thing, and I like unplugged it and set it off in the closet. And Christy's like, well, when are you planning on doing this? I'm like, oh, next month. I'm not touching it until then. So, but yeah. Was there anything else anyone wants to add that?
So just to go along with it, because it was announced today, there's a local nuclear power plant has announced today that so the place is called Bruce Power. So Bruce Power aims to be the first nuclear plant in North America to achieve a net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2027. So they're looking at redoing their entire fleet of vehicles to make sure that they're green, and then they're also looking into new technologies to help get them down to net zero by that. So that's 6 years. Like, that's not far away, and it was pretty cool that they announced that today. So I thought I'd share it with you. So
Very
That's
cool.
awesome.
yeah.
I will say, if you're listening and you have a business, or you're even like a person looking to, that has influence over this stuff, your state probably has grants available. I know in Texas we have many TCEQ grants that help you electrify your fleet, that help you install charging stations. So check out the things that are available, because a lot of people don't know, and the money doesn't get used.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep.
if you're serious about,
And that money goes away if it's not used, right?
Mhm.
Like nobody wants it. Okay, then we'll just take that money away.
do something else. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that was well, anyway. Side story. I was looking at the chapter titles and seeing if anything else had popped out or whatever that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to talk about that. So all right, well, overall, just your final reaction. I'll just go first. Like I said, I really enjoyed the book. It's not that I was not looking forward to reading it. It's just that we've read quite a few nonfictions here recently, and then I've been reading some nonfiction on some other stuff as well, and it was just like, man, do I really want to read something that's maybe going to bring me down on this? And then as soon as I listened to the introduction, I was like, no, I don't think this is going to be that bad. And then, like I said, the further I got into it, the more I was just like, no, this is pretty positive. Like I enjoyed listening to it. So,
Yeah.
if you're looking for an environmental book to listen to / read, and you don't want to get depressed, this may be the one to look for. So definitely, I would definitely say check it out. So, Jen?
Yeah, I think this is a good entry level into this topic. I mean, if you're hearing about climate change and like, what's the big deal? Why is this, a thing? I guess he doesn't go as much into the why or how it's happening, but more into the solutions and how we can address it. It's very accessible, and I think I'm glad that he's using the platform that he has, because he has a very large voice and people listen to him, even though this isn't his area of expertise. He's done his research. He's using his platform for good, and yeah, I think it's a good thing. People respect him. So
just to throw in on that, you were talking about how it's not his area of expertise, but man, he's like, yeah,
He
so
does.
I didn't know how this worked. So I found the top people in the world and had them explain it to me. And it's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
of course you did. You're Bill Gates.
Yeah.
It's real.
And he's
So-
sharing it with us, so we
And
don't
he-
have
yeah,
to do that.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's, most people are like, well, I heard from somewhere, I read on Facebook. He's like, no, I went to the top scientists and asked them, why is this the reason?
He invented it, so.
Yeah. So, Chris?
Yeah, like Jen said, this is a really great entry level if you are wondering about learning more about it but have eco-anxiety like I do, which is why I avoid a lot of these books like the plague. I came away with this hopeful. I actually enjoyed, like, I was looking forward to reading it. I think at one point I listened to it I listened to half of it in one day.
Wow.
Because it was because it was just one of those, Will Wheaton might have something to do with it, but I did. It was really great, and it opened my eyes so much. It made my post-secondary education make a lot more sense. It made sense, but where they could have done more, where they could have bridged the gap and actually given us tools to do something about it instead of telling us what not to do. And yeah, I think everybody should be like course curriculum for kids. Like, just start them. We need innovation. Here's what we need to do. Let's go, kids. And we can have a whole generation of innovators. And
That's a really good idea. I really like that idea.
there you go. Because it is, he doesn't, there's no big language in there. He doesn't try to make it sound like a science research paper. He doesn't try to do any of that stuff. He's just really it's honest, broke down. Here's all the research.
Which
Here's
is
the math.
surprising. From
Yeah.
him, you would think he'd
From
be
him,
super academic.
It is, but you can tell he's got a huge passion for this, and it
Mhm.
fascinates him. So with that fascination comes him wanting to seek out every single answer he can find.
But he's big on education, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's maybe why he kept it where it's at, which is very accessible to everyone.
Yeah,
So-
accessible, like Jen said too. So I think everybody should read this, and because it isn't gloom and doom. It isn't one of those we're screwed. It's not nihilistic. It's not any of that stuff. It's we can have some honest to good plans here. We could do this, and it doesn't mean you have to sacrifice. It doesn't mean you have to sacrifice anything. It just means things have to switch. They just have to, do a 180. That's it. But you don't have to sacrifice your house or your car. Your car just might be turned electric, and your house may be heated a different way. That's it.
Yeah.
So I think that approach is really, I think, very wide-reaching, and I highly, highly, highly recommend anybody who's listening, please read it and then pass it along.
Ray, were you like me? Did you enjoy the part where he was talking about farts?
I do. Yeah,
And how Melinda specifically told him he couldn't use it in a speech, and he's like, but it's my book and I'm doing what I want.
Yeah.
I may have giggled a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
How
Yeah, a
far
little
to-
I'm gonna say again, like you guys have touched on all the major points. I was gonna say that I thought he's given me a way to describe why I can support a carbon tax now. I never had that before, and now I understand why it's so important to have something like that. Because the other part of this too, and I'm glad he touched on it, is there's a lot of people's lives depend on the oil industry, and that's their income, right? And I can understand being threatened to be taken away from you is very scary. So to be innovative and to try and make sure that we get these people the jobs that they deserve, but in new fields, so that we're not taking their livelihoods away. That's really important, and that was a big part of this book too. So please, go read it, enjoy it. I think it's a fantastic read. Bill's going to be on with us at some point to read this as well, so it's
Yeah.
If only.
yeah. But anyway, I enjoyed it. It was a lot faster read than I thought it was going to be as well. I never got bored.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. Well, that is our discussion on the book this month. Let's go and move on into anything else we might be reading. Jen, are you reading anything else?
Not currently, but as Chris mentioned earlier, I think we read this Wild and Precious Life by Sarah Wilson in our last episode of Sustainably Geeky, and that was also climate change-esque.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, but a variety of that and
Yeah.
inspirational and self-help. So it was really good. I liked it, and she was on our last show. So if you want to learn more about the book, check that out.
Yep. Chris, you reading anything else?
Oh, so many things. So
She got a box.
So I went on Facebook Marketplace and may have bought a box containing 36 romance novels.
Oh my God, I knew you were gonna say that.
Nice.
So I've been reading. So I've been.
Smut.
It's smut. I don't care.
All right.
I gotta read smut.
Do you, girl?
Yeah. So last year, my New Year's resolution was to read all the books in the house that I hadn't read yet before buying anything new. And I did that really well. I read a lot of books that I hadn't read before that I probably never would have. And I got into Lord of the Rings, and then I hit a bit of a wall. So I only have a couple chapters left of Return of the King, and I'm like, I can't anymore. So when I found this thing on Facebook,
like the third ending, and it was like, no, I'm done.
I can't. I get it. I know how this ends. I have to read something else. Sorry, Mr. Tolkien, but yeah, I like plot-driven books, not character-driven books. So I saw this. I'm like, babe, I have to get this. It's my favorite authors. I'd given all these books away, and this lady was selling two of my favorite authors. I'm like, oh my God, oh babe, we gotta get. So my plan was just to read one to scratch the itch. I'm on book 4.
Slow down, you're gonna run out.
Well, you'd think that, then I'll just reread them.
There you go.
So I'm currently reading the 4th one, and then I'm not gonna make any promises. I'll get back to Return of the King.
When the box is done.
Maybe when the box is done. But it won't take me very long, because this is the 4th one, and I think I started reading them like 3 weeks ago. So 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah,
So,
maybe a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Because you didn't start reading the book still. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I'm reading.
Awesome.
I love you, Chris.
What about you, Ray? Are you reading anything else?
Green Lights. Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, okay.
Please go read that book. But no, you know what? No, don't read it. Don't read it. Get the audiobook. It is so worth.
Why is it worth it? Why is it worth it, babe? Who narrates it?
Matthew McConaughey reads it himself. And
I think he's got a new man crush.
I do, because just listen to him talk about this stuff. It's like, dude, I just want to hang out with him for a little while.
Hey,
his brain and
come to Texas. He lives an hour away from us.
Apparently, yeah.
And teaches at the university.
Yeah.
It's seriously though, if you need something it's a little bit of an inspirational book, but it's just his notes on life, and he had a fucked up life sometimes, and pretty cool that he is where he is. So yeah, if you get an opportunity, please go listen to that one.
Okay, cool. The only other thing that I've read, a lot of podcasts and a lot of other stuff. I read the new book that came out by Andrew Mayne. It's the second book in, I can't remember what the name of the series is. It's called Black Coral. He has several book series out. And it looks like he's slowly but surely moving to an Avengers style meetup of his main characters.
That's cool.
And I actually meant to tweet at him because he's very good about replying. I was expecting to hear one of two names from one of the other, book series, and the names that he threw in there. I'm like, oh, okay, so yes, this is where we're going. Can't wait to see the Avengers team up on this. It's gonna be awesome. But it's called Black Coral. It's the second book in a series. The first one is The Girl Under the Water, and it's about a girl. Her family is kind of fucked up. They were like the uncle's in prison. Her dad is basically he's like an underwater privateer, like constantly, like he's always got a scheme of, hey, we can go check this out and this, that, and the other, or whatever. And she decides that she's going to become a police diver, and it's her dealings with getting caught smuggling and drugs and everything else that's going on in Florida, because that's where the book takes place. And now it's moving into the point where she's like really getting into it and has found this possible serial killer. And it's a really good book series. I enjoy his characters. I enjoy his writing. So if nothing else, go check out some of his other books. He's got a wide range of books, everything from an astronaut that falls back to Earth and is getting away from the government to a woman who is she's an FBI agent. When they find out she used to be a magician, they're asking her, so how did this crime get committed? Because it doesn't make sense any other way. So yeah, they're really good series. Anyway, so that's what I've been reading. So that's our show for the month, ladies and gentlemen. If you would please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Google, Stitcher, wherever it is you listen to the show. We're pretty much everywhere at this point. You can also catch us at epicallygeeky.com and on the social media at Epically Geeky on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also check out our other shows, the Marginally Geeky Show, the Epically Geeky Show, Creatively Geeky, and Sustainably Geeky. Procrastinators. I said it. I got it.
I always forget.
Why do you even keep bringing it up?
I know.
He's the only. I only do it because he's making me bring it up. Anyway, but yes, definitely check out the other shows, because we've got a bunch of other stuff going on that's interesting and fun. And if you enjoy this show, it's us talking about other stuff. So where can we find you online, Jen?
You can find me here and Sustainably Geeky, and that's pretty much it these days. I'm going to stop saying Epically Geeky until I'm actually on another show. I haven't been on that in months, but yeah. And then on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Het's Gonna Be Me.
Ray, what about you?
The Reluctant Yeti on Instagram. Again, trying to stay away from Twitter till you guys figure your shit out. Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen anytime soon. Chris, what about you?
You can find me here and Creatively Geeky and Epically Geeky and Sustainably Geeky. I am not on procrastinators because I don't know how to play video games.
Yes, you do.
I don't like to.
There you go.
Therefore, I learned, so I really don't know how to. And on Instagram at Rose and Hummingbird.
And as always, you can follow my individual wacky adventure online at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For everyone on the site, have a good night.
Good night.